What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cohn on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Grant Cohn. Grant, we are 1 week, less than a week, away from the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Are you ready for the Underwear Olympics?
I am ready for the Underwear Olympics. I'm not going this year. I've never gone to the Combine. 1 year I'd like to go because Lynch will talk. Someone's going to talk. Actually, that's not necessarily the case, right? Kyle doesn't go to this anymore.
Somebody has to talk, I think.
Someone has to talk. Well, it's a press conference, and there's a lot to talk about right now, but we'll be watching it together, learning who these players are.
Exactly. I have gone to the Combine multiple times. It is fantastic. I always tell people it's great because there's basically two restaurants where everybody goes to eat, and I'm talking everybody, insiders, coaches, GMs, owners.
Oh.
It's Ruth's Chris and St. Elmo's. Yes.
Say it again.
Ruth's Chris and St. Elmo's are the two steakhouses. Okay. They're right by the state or the little convention center where they have all the stuff, and they like to drink. And you could just sit in the bar there and just listen. And I will swear you will hear the most juicy NFL gossip in the world. It's unbelievable.
That's a nice selection though. When you go to cover a game in Green Bay and you stay in Appleton, you got two restaurants to choose from: Applebee's, Buffalo Wild Wings. So you switch it up.
Yeah. Here's my we're going to get to defensive coordinator stuff and how the Niners improve in a second. Just here's my quick beef with St. Elmo's Steakhouse. It's a steakhouse most famous for their shrimp cocktail. That seems weird to me. If you are a steakhouse, you should be known for your steak, not your shrimp cocktail.
That being said, I love a shrimp cocktail. So good.
I do.
Kind of thing you would get at a steakhouse. Yes. My favorite steakhouse is one of the the really famous one in Brooklyn called Peter Luger. Have you ever gone there? What's cool about it? They give you the menu, and the menu's like steak for one, steak for two, steak for three. That's pretty much it. There's like some options at the bottom, but it's real simple.
That is my kind of menu. Before we dive in, I just want to thank everybody. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you leave a podcast review, I will read it. This one comes from LTM247. 5 stars. 5 stars because I love stats and want to support the impressive work he's done since Niners Nation. Don't let Levin tell quick stories. They're never quick, and I just want to get back to the football. Any kind of criticism of my co-host on Thursdays, Levin Black, I fully support. So thank you, and thank everybody that's helping us get our star rating up on Apple Pods. All right, Grant.
Hold on real quick. Before we dive into the show, I want to say that I just gave away a signed Brandon Ayuk jersey to Matthew Hernandez. He won the giveaway. I'm sending it to him today. And I'm also giving away a signed Christian McCaffrey jersey. The details are pinned to the top of my Twitter profile at Grant Cohn. You want to enter that giveaway? I'm giving stuff away. Just want to say that. All right.
Look at you, man.
Giving back to the fan base.
Did you go in the locker room and ask Christian McCaffrey to sign the jersey for you to give away?
Oh, no, that would be against the rules. I can't do that. I can't ask for with a credential. Can I get your autograph? No. At a pristine auction.
Well, there you go. That is pretty cool. I love autographs. I collect autographs. I got my son a Deebo Samuel autograph mini helmet. I've got Joe Montana and Jerry Rice autograph mini helmet. I've got Bill Walsh's autograph. I'm a huge, huge autograph fan, so that is very cool. Okay. First, let's get into
I got Steve Young's autograph personally when I was 7, right after he won the Super Bowl, on a Sports Illustrated for Kids card.
Nice.
And it says to Iggy, my main man, from Steve. And then he also signed this hat and got Jerry Rice to sign it and Brent Jones to sign it. 7 years old. Spoiled.
Damn. Little jealous. Not gonna lie.
Hell yeah. I've been a prick ever since.
I'm not going to refute that. I'm just going to continue.
I bet Steve watches the show every once in a while. He's like, I never should have signed that kid's freaking hat.
You are not my main man.
Look what I did.
All right. Defensive coordinator talk is dominating. Tim Kawakami decided to just pull the pin, throw a hand grenade into 49ers Twitter yesterday by throwing out that an announcement of the new coordinator could come soon.
Is that an announcement, though? No disrespect, but an announcement could come soon?
Right. As I said yesterday, sure, it could come soon or it could come later. Those are the two outcomes.
That's the low. I'm going to start breaking news like that. Hey, something might happen tomorrow or not. But if it does, I want credit. But if it doesn't, give me a break. Like,
right. I wasn't wrong. Yeah. It's a nice world to live in where you could never be wrong. He did put out a mailbag column today where he says an announcement he thinks could come by the end of the week. He said probably by the end of the week, to quote the article. His guess as who replaces Steve Wilks is Jeff Ulbrich, who for some 49er fans, you may remember Jeff Ulbrich. He used to be a linebacker for the team. He was a linebacker coach in Atlanta for 5 or 6 years. Then he went to the Jets to coordinate their defense. That would be an interesting choice, Grant, but also like a really weird choice because why would the Jets let him leave?
Thank you. That's the first thing I thought. Like, well, hold on. He already is a defensive coordinator for a team, for the Jets. And they have a good defense. And Robert Saleh needs him. Like, why would Robert Saleh be like, you know what? My job's on the line. If I don't make the playoffs this year, I'm probably getting canned. But you know what, Jeff, go help the night. Kyle needs you. Kyle needs you. I just don't see that. Maybe it'll happen. If I were Robert, I wouldn't let that happen. Not in my interest.
So, like, it's a weird thing because I think teams can block you from making a lateral move if you're under contract. But also, like, if you're the Jets and Jeff Ulbrich's like, I want to leave. I want to go to the 49ers. Do you want Jeff Ulbrich to coordinate your defense knowing he doesn't want to be there? So it's a weird situation. Can coordinators even get traded? I have no idea.
It just seems kind of weak on Ulbrich's part to jump ship. I mean, you're 3 years in, you're going into year 4, you're committed to Robert Saleh, and this late in the process, you're like, you know what? Actually, I want to take a lateral move with the Niners. Good luck. I don't know if I were Robert Saleh, I would hate Jeff Ulbrich for life for that. Like, hold on. You're jumping ship. Why? If you were going to become a head coach, by all means, but you're abandoning your defense, I would hate him.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe Jeff Ulbrich doesn't care.
If you're the Jets, like, who do you get to then be your defensive coordinator? Because everybody's off the market too. So it's a weird situation.
I'll have to do it himself. It's a lot.
Tim is not throwing that out there for no reason. He's claiming it's just a guess. I always get skeptical when people close to the team say this is just a guess, because that is often used for cover on things they've actually heard many, many times. But then again, it's not like the 49ers beat is known for breaking a ton of stories. So maybe it is just a guess. I don't know. But it's a weird thing.
If he says it's just a guess, I believe it's just a guess. I mean, it's not like he came out at any point and was like, hey, guys, I heard something. It's pretty concrete. He's like, it could happen, maybe not. I don't know. It's a guess. Like, okay, I believe it. Hey, if Jeff Ulbrich is the defensive coordinator by the end of the week, I'll have to say this dude's either the best guesser of all time or he knew something. But right now, I'm thinking he's guessing. And I'm thinking he's guessing, man. His best guess is another team's defensive coordinator. It sounds like a guess.
But is that your guess you would make? Like, because of all the stuff we just outlined, that would be your guess? A guy that in a weird situation, a situation we have very rarely seen in NFL history of one coordinator leaving in February to be the same position with another team? That's your guess?
Well, I could see why Kawakami feels Ulbrich is a good fit for what the Niners want.
Yes.
He, coached under Saleh. There's a schematic fit. He was a linebacker coach and a linebacker, and he's from the Bay Area. It's like, check. Sure, he's a great fit for what the Niners want to do. But again, why would the Jets make this happen? You're assuming that Jeff Ulbrich's going to walk in one day and be like, Robert, I'm freaking out of here, and you better not block me, because if you keep me here, I'm not going to do my work. Like, is that really going to happen? Like, is the Niners defense even better than the Jets defense? Jets defense is really good and getting better and young. So I don't know. If the Niners can get Jeff Ulbrich, nice, but I'm skeptical.
Here's the reality, though.
He also is like, they also could get Marquand Manuel or Chris Kiffin. Like, womp womp. Okay, that's not what anyone wants to hear.
If you're Jeff Ulbrich, maybe you're like, I am tired of coaching a great defense where the offense goes 3 and out and turns the ball over. I want to have a defense where the offense actually scores points, damn it. Because the Jets defense is probably even better than they looked last year, but their offense was so god-awful and turning the ball over and going 3 and out. I think the Jets defense is probably even better than they looked, and I can understand why he'd get frustrated by that.
I got something else to say. Give me an example. I'm sure there is one, but give me an example of a coordinator forcing his way off a team to be a coordinator somewhere else. Kyle did it, right? He was in Cleveland.
It's true.
Okay, he was kind of controversial, and maybe he wouldn't have done it if he didn't have, NFL royalty in his blood. You really think Ulbrich? I mean, also, what if he does it and Kyle poaches Ulbrich? What does that do to his relationship with Saleh? I mean, if I were Saleh, I'd be like, yo, I hate you, Kyle. Like, you just torpedoed my last season, my last chance to keep myself afloat as a head coach. Thank you for everything.
And Kyle hates when people poach from his staff too. So that would
I don't
be
know.
yeah.
It's a scandalous. I mean, look, it's a bold choice from Tim Kawakami. And if the Niners pull it off, that'd be some evil stuff. But hey, it's the NFL. He's a good coach. He went to UCLA. Didn't he go to UCLA? No, he didn't go to UCLA, but he coached UCLA. Sorry. I think he went to San Jose State. From
Corey
San Jose.
Soto says there must be an internal timeline to hire March. I would think they'd want to get it done sooner rather than later. The combine is next week. You'd like to have your staff in place.
That's why I feel like him. I mean, the whole thing could have been a pretty much an educated guess. Like the combine's coming up. Oh, you think that they might get this done before the combine? Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Like they
Right.
should, obviously.
That's a sturdy branch you're on when you say that.
They should know what their freaking scheme is before they start watching the players at the combine. Yep.
Well, that's another indication too, right? That they're probably not going to change the scheme because, first of all, like I get what Kyle's saying with that. Like, if you change the scheme, you probably don't have enough players on your roster to be able to run that scheme effectively. I think that's really the main reason why he wants to keep the scheme the same is because like changing the scheme can often take a couple of years to fully do properly. And the Niners are still trying to win the damn Super Bowl.
I have a more cynical reason why they don't want to change the scheme.
Oh, all right. What do you got?
The players don't want to.
Well,
these players, I'm not trying to talk too much crap here, but they're very highly paid. And they talk about football like they are coaches, from Nick Bosa to Eric Armstead to Fred Warner, especially Fred Warner. I think they don't want to learn new stuff at this point in their careers. I think they've mastered their techniques and this particular defense. And there's a lot of results to say that they have. And their attitude is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there's a lot to be said for that. That's how I think they're acting. And it's going to be hard to get, unless it's Bill Belichick, it's going to be hard to get these players to buy into something else.
That's the other sort of aspect to this is the player's voice. And can the next coordinator, whether it's Jeff Ulbrich or whoever, can he get past that sort of outsider mentality, that sort of outsider status? Because it always felt like Wilks was the outsider. He was running their defense. It wasn't Steve Wilks' defense. So, and I think that was part of the fit. They had problems with fit there with Steve Wilks early on. So whoever they hire has got to get past that. I don't know if they can.
Also, I feel like the issue with Wilks was buy-in more than fit. I think Wilks bent over backwards to do whatever the hell Nick Bosa and Fred Warner wanted him to do. And when the defense collectively played as hard as it could, they had great results. I don't know. I think people have sort of tried to change the narrative on the Steve Wilks era. It wasn't nearly as bad as people making it seem now that he got fired. He actually did quite well in spite of the impossible position they put him in.
Third in points allowed in the entire league. Like,
I mean, they went from giving up 16.4, I believe, under D'Amico in 2022 to 17.5. Steve Wilks, you're fired. Like, okay. Well, good luck to the next guy.
Right.
You better not give up 18.5 points next year. You're out.
Don't call a zero blitz that should have been an interception that turns into a touchdown at the end of the second quarter because you will pay.
I mean, yeah, that ball hit Tavarius Ward in the chest. God, Steve Wilks must be so mad.
I haven't heard his name anywhere. By the way, I guess all the spots are filled. So, but someone should hire Steve Wilks. He's a good coach. Anyway,
he's gonna have to take a year off. It sucks. Hate when it happens to a coach. Yeah.
Let's look at the bigger picture here. How can the 49ers improve in 2024? The simplest, easiest way for the 49ers to improve in 2024 is for Brock Purdy to get better, to use this offseason to get better, to watch the film, to learn, to make a jump that a lot of quarterbacks make early in their careers. That is the simplest. It doesn't involve trading anyone, cutting anyone, drafting anyone. Like that is job one, simplest thing. Brock Purdy gets better in 2024.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to talk about. To me, I don't know how much better he can get as a passer. He's had a lot of early success. I think there actually might be a little regression for him. There's a stat. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, a little graphic comparing his first 27 starts to Jimmy's. They're both 21-6. They're both 67% completion percentage. But the big difference between them is TD to INT ratio. More touchdowns for Brock, fewer interceptions. And I think when we watch him, he clearly is a guy who's going to throw more touchdowns more often than Jimmy. He keeps plays alive. He takes more risks. He's a better thrower than Jimmy. The interception thing, though, I still have a feeling, an inkling, there's going to be some regression there for Brock, just because the way I've seen him practice and all the interceptions that have been dropped for him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I still feel like that interception thing could actually regress, and he could start throwing more picks, and he still would be a good quarterback. But where he can improve, that was a long preamble that was negative. Where he can improve is his mobility. Like, a big reason the Chiefs won the Super Bowl is that Patrick Mahomes ran for more than 60 yards. Purdy can do that. He did it. A big reason he won the NFC Championship game is because he ran for almost 50 yards. He should be more aggressive with that. Instead of scrambling a couple times a game, he should be scrambling 4, 5, 6 times a game. And if he picks his spots, he could be getting big gains. He's a weapon in that way. And I think that's almost like an untapped part of his game. And I like to compare him to Jeff Garcia. That's how Garcia played. That's how Steve Young played. That's how Patrick Mahomes played. 75 scrambles in a season, not 40. Double that.
And that was one of the things Brock mentioned. Where do you want to get better in 2024?
Yeah.
He said mobility. And I think it's the kind of thing like we saw with the Chiefs, where you're not necessarily calling power up the middle for Brock Purdy, but in a short yardage situation, you can run a play that has options, right? Like exactly like the Chiefs did. They had an option to Pacheco. They had Kelsey out on the wing, and then they had Mahomes. And the play was actually drawn up for Kelsey, but Mahomes says to Andy Reid on the sideline, like, if it's not there with Travis, I'll just take it. The 49ers can do that with Brock Purdy. And hopefully Kyle has realized that and they can incorporate that in, because I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help Brock. It's going to help the offense, and it's going to make passing easier because defenses are going to have to account for Brock's legs. So I think that is definitely a spot where he can get better.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, that's how Bill Walsh would want him to play. It's how Mike Holmgren would want him to play. It's how Andy Reid would want him to play. I don't know how Kyle and Brian Greasy want Brock Purdy to play, but Brock, you've established yourself. You've won an NFC Championship game. You can take a little creative license with your own freaking game. And I'm just saying, just like instead of 2 scrambles a game, make it 4 or 5. And if Kyle has a problem with it, let him play quarterback. What's he going to do? Go to Sam Darnold? And if you have success with it, which you've only had success doing this, this is, to me, really an untapped part of your game. Don't just stand in the pocket. Kyle wants you to do that. But you're not Matt Ryan. You're not 6'5". Once you start using your legs, I think you just become more effective overall. Use them.
Especially if it's man coverage and the Niners receivers are having trouble getting away from man coverage. If
you could argue he should have scrambled a lot more in that game.
If they're doubling Brandon Ayuk and Debo can't get away from man coverage, take off, Brock.
Be a
Let's
playmaker.
Go. So I definitely think so.
And I think he will. That's one of the things I like about Brock Purdy. He's honest with himself. He works hard. He attacks his weaknesses. Like Jimmy would never. Instead of, like, when Jimmy missed that long pass in the Super Bowl, he's like, well, I'm just not doing that anymore. I'm just not throwing deep anymore. No. Brock is not like that. Another reason that despite him, having eerily similar numbers through 27 starts as Jimmy, he's better than Jimmy. And he's going to have a much brighter future. Jimmy just slowly faded.
Brock's about to get married pretty soon. I guarantee you, if you text Brock Purdy, he will text you back. Like Jimmy Garoppolo literally would ghost the team in the offseason. Like they don't have to worry about that with Brock Purdy.
The audacity.
Right?
That's the Niners. God.
Where do you, please. Where do you put Brock right now? We've had a whole season of him as the starter. He was healthy enough to play every game. I know he sat out the last game, but he could have played it. Where do you put Brock as a quarterback now in the NFL after having seen him for a full year?
Yeah. There's tiers, and everyone asks, is he elite? I would not consider him elite yet. So there's Patrick Mahomes. He's in like the God tier. And then there's the elite quarterback. So how many would you say are elite? There's not that many. I think at any given time in the NFL, there's like 7 elite quarterbacks. So including Mahomes, I think we could probably agree. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. And then after that, I would throw in Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, and CJ Stroud. You could argue whatever you want. I think those 6 are elite. Maybe it's a little too early on Stroud. Maybe Stafford's playing his way out of that. I think he's still right in his prime. Then after that, 7 guys. I think after that, I'd put Purdy right there, in that hell of a quarterback tier with Kirk Cousins and Kyler Murray and Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. I think those guys. All the guys you mentioned in that elite tier have elite
physical skills in multiple areas. Elite mobility, like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, elite mobility, elite arm talent. That's the combination that puts them to tier above.
Stafford, Herbert, elite freaking arms.
Unbelievable arms.
Yeah.
Brock doesn't have that part of it. So to me, he'll never be able to get to that level. But that doesn't mean he's not a great quarterback. It doesn't mean he can't win. Doesn't mean he can't win Super Bowls. I think that's the...
Doesn't mean he can't become elite either. Like we said, if he becomes a little bit more mobile and a little bit more aggressive in that part of his game, he could become elite. But right now, I would rank him 8th out of 32 quarterbacks, which would put him in the top quarter. I can't remember the last time the Niners had a top 8 quarterback. I don't think Jimmy was ever top 8 in the NFL.
No, God, no.
Maybe Kaepernick was for a minute, maybe not. I don't know.
It was a minute.
It was. Yeah, maybe a minute.
I'm not sure that I would say that Joe Burrow is so much better than Brock Purdy.
Okay, that's fair.
That's the only one I would take issue with.
Or 5th. Yeah,
but
would you not put Burrow in that elite category yet?
I don't know if I would put him elite. I think I would put him like, again, to me, having to be elite is a physical skill guy. I mean, Burrow is awesome. I love Burrow. I love his attitude. I love his...
He just looks so good against the Niners this year.
Oh, well, that was the best game of the year for him. I mean, he was running around. He was throwing it. It was unbelievable.
It was easy. He didn't break a sweat.
No, it was very frustrating. But that is clearly the best path for the 49ers to get better, is Brock Purdy improving. The other areas where I think the Niners can improve are, number one, improving the offensive line, both in terms of starters and in terms of depth. Can that be done this offseason? 100% it can be done this offseason. Absolutely. The Niners have 11 draft picks. This is a draft supposedly chock full of offensive linemen. That is a good combination. So I think they need to do it, and I think they will improve the offensive line.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we've been talking about their offensive line for a long time, but it just still feels like an unfair scapegoat to put on, that unit when the issue really was. Let's talk about it from a schematic perspective. Before the game, we talked about Chiefs can't stop the Niners run game. So the Chiefs come out and make it their business. They put 6 on the line. They really sell out to stop it. And the Niners can't beat that. They average like 3-something yards a carry. Their counter to go empty backfield a lot and sort of spread out the Chiefs. So you want to put 6 on the line, we're going to spread you out. The Chiefs' counter to that was to bring extra pressure, and the Niners couldn't pick it up with their 5 offensive linemen all game. So it seems kind of like Kyle Shanahan got beat by Steve Spagnuolo more than any one offensive lineman got manhandled in this game. So what is Kyle going to do if a team with statistically a bad run defense can just by formation and alignment shut down your run game, take you out of what you want to do, and force you to play left-handed, play with these empty back? Like, you have to have a better answer for that kind of stuff than what you had in the Super Bowl. You got beat. It's another one that schematically, it seems like some not so good defenses did pretty good against his offenses in the Super Bowl. Like the Packers have a terrible defense. They did pretty good against him.
I agree that in the Super Bowl, I think the Niners' blocking issues were more schematical than physical. Although there were some plays where they just got physically beat. That happens every game. I think Spagnuolo I think Spagnuolo completely took Kyle Shanahan to the cleaners. Most of the time, their offensive
wild.
Line, yeah, it was.
Spagnuolo's really good. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that's another thing I think people aren't realizing with the Chiefs. They have an elite head coach in Andy Reid. They have the best quarterback of his generation in Patrick Mahomes, and they probably have the best or one of the best defensive coordinators of his generation in Steve Spagnuolo. So
everyone talks about Fangio, but Fangio might be
on the way
tailing
down
off a little bit, while Spagnuolo, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But I think that where the offensive line issues crop up is when the Niners get down and they have to go straight passing situations. That was always the trouble. In those situations, to me, it wasn't where the Niners were getting out schemed. It was teams were keeping players back in coverage, and the 49ers offensive line literally could not hold up. So you got pressure from the other team's defensive line, and they had, 7 guys in coverage. And so it becomes really hard for the 49ers to move the ball through the air. So that's why, to me, you have to improve the offensive line. It's because when the game script doesn't go in your way, you need to be able to hold up better than they did.
Also, you might be able to dictate more with your running game with a better offensive line. You can't have the best running back in the league and then see some front from the defense and be like, oh, we can't run today. Yes. Hey, Christian, you're playing wide receiver today. Sorry, they want to do this. We can't. We have no. You have the. I keep going back to the first time Mike Shanahan won a Super Bowl in '97 or January '98 with the Broncos. He had John Elway. Elway didn't play well in that game. He was 12 of 22. I think he threw a pick and his quarterback rating was 50 something. But they ran the ball 30 times with Terrell Davis, who went for like 150 yards, 3 touchdowns. He just couldn't be stopped. He was the best. Their running game was great all year. Packers couldn't stop. Broncos win. That's you. That should be you too, Kyle. You have a running back on that level. Why can't you dictate with your running game? I mean, that should be your goal to do that. You don't want to be the empty backfield, pass the ball around team. That's not you.
I think that, yes, you're right about John Elway and the Broncos. That was also a long
30
time
years
ago. You know, the
True.
game is so tilted now towards passing offenses. But I mean, you certainly would like.
I just thought Shanahan's scheme was outside zone, play action. Not really in the Super Bowl. Not really. I don't know. I don't even know what his scheme is anymore.
You would certainly like to give Christian McCaffrey a better offensive line than they have. Like, you have Trent Williams, who's awesome, but then you could easily draft a player in the first round in April's draft, or even maybe the second round, that's better than Colton McKivitz or better than Spencer Burford. Like, that's not a pie in the sky, oh my God, you're such a homer take. And if that's the case, then not only do you have to do it, but like, how can you have given Christian McCaffrey that offensive line? And by the way, you led the league in rushing this year.
Absolutely. I mean, they run to the left so much. They do have, I mean, Trent Williams is really good and Aaron Banks is good too. Spencer Burford is really young and he has promise. Cole McKivitz is tough. Like, we used to make fun of Mike McGlinchey. Maybe that was childish. I don't want to make fun of Colton McKivitz. Colton McKivitz is a tough guy. The thing with McGlinchey that would kill me was he'd talk like a coach. Then he'd make one mistake and he'd get in his head and make 2 more. You'd see it happen all the time. Colton McKivitz doesn't talk like a coach. He doesn't compound his mistakes. He's a tough dude. I like Colton McKivitz. Still, it's a very important position. And the way the Niners play with empty backfields, like, you don't always have tight end help. He wasn't getting tight end help in the Super Bowl. That guy needs to be almost as good as your left tackle, if not as good as your left tackle. And Colton McKivitz isn't. Like, that's a guy who's going to be making $20 million a year if he's good. Why don't you take that position seriously? Trade Debo for a right tackle. That's what the Chiefs would do. You know what I'm saying? Or like for a pick. They let Tyreek Hill go and just invested their offensive line. And then they drafted more wide receivers.
My attitude on Colton McKivitz has evolved throughout the year, and I just landed on the point where, like, this is not Colton McKivitz's fault. This is the best that he can do. They never should have gone into the season with Colton McKivitz as the unquestioned starter with no competition whatsoever. That was just always a crazy thing. I'd love to see Colton McKivitz stick around as a backup. 100% fine with that. But you got to improve that spot. I'm not as high on Spencer Burford as you are. I think he's a backup at best. They need to improve all those spots, even center. Like, Jake Brendo's been, I wouldn't just hand
Spencer Burford a starting job, but I think, he's under contract. He's young. He's got a chance. He'd be in a good. He'd be good in a competition. But yeah, like, they don't really run to the right very well. Well, the way they run the ball is the point of attack is to the left, and they cut back to the right if the defense over pursues, and that's their run game. But if they could actually run the ball to the right as well at the point of attack, they'd be so much better.
And hopefully they will. I like I said, I think it's inconceivable that they don't draft at least one offensive lineman this year. I know I would have said that last year too. Inconceivable. I would have been wrong last year, but I don't. There's no way they go 2 years in a row without taking an offensive lineman.
No way. No way. See, to me, if they were to trade Brandon Ayuk, which, I mean, you could argue whether they should or they shouldn't, but if they were to do it and they were to get like a top 15 pick, you better take an offensive lineman, an offensive tackle with that pick, someone who could replace Trent Williams one day.
Yep.
And then taking off a wide receiver, in the late first or the second round. Again, that's what the Chiefs would do, in my opinion. I'm not saying they should trade Brandon Ayuk. There's a lot of people out trading this team before I would trade Brandon Ayuk. But if that's who the Niners want to trade, that's how you handle it.
To me, it all depends on the offer you get for Brandon Ayuk. If you get a ridiculous offer of like a first and a third, I would say, bye-bye, number 11. I would use it to draft an offensive lineman, like you said. and I would look to fill the wide receiver position later in the draft. I would figure it out. But I think this team is a better overall team with a better offensive line and Kyle Shanahan calling plays than it is with the same offensive line and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel still there. I do. And
I still would rather. Sorry, go ahead. I still would rather trade Deebo Samuel and take the dead cap hit than trade Brandon Ayuk. I know it makes more financial sense to trade Brandon Ayuk, but I don't think it makes anything more than just financial sense to trade Brandon Ayuk. He's so good, and he has great chemistry with Brock Purdy, and they're about the same age. They should be playing together for a long time.
If I had to choose, just from a player perspective, taking money out of the equation, 1,000% Ayuk over Deebo.
Hell yeah,
1,000%.
It's hard to swallow the $21 million dead cap hit that comes with trading him. Sure, I get it, but if you trade him for a blue chip player, you get over it in a year. It won't kill your team.
I wouldn't be shocked if we heard Ayuk trade rumors next week at the combine. Look, they're all there. All the GMs, all the coaches, all the agents are there also. Like, there's tampering that is going on, that will go on. So, I think
pretend you're a GM from another team. You're watching the Niners. They only give Ayuk 6 targets in the Super Bowl. He gets 3 catches. He's despondent afterward. You need a wide receiver. Are you not thinking, let me see what I can do over there? I don't think they're that committed to him. I think I might be able to trade for him. I think it'd be smart to trade for Brandon Ayuk. I think he actually is underrated, and he's a bit of a bargain.
Speaking of the Jets, we were talking about the Jets earlier with the whole Jeff Ulbrich thing, right?
Oh, Ayuk for Ulbrich.
Robert Saleh is really, he has to win this year or he is going to be fired. You're hoping to get Aaron Rodgers back. You have Garrett Wilson, who's awesome, who's like way better than people even think because his quarterback play has been so bad. If you're the Jets, don't you approach the 49ers and be like, if we could pair Brandon Ayuk with Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and Breece Hall, we're going to win. And our defense, we're going to win. Maybe they'd be more willing to give up a higher pick or multiple picks for a Brandon Ayuk than maybe some other teams. I think John Lynch should be calling everybody. Just get the sense of the market out there. I think that's his job. Figure it out. What is the market? What is the maximum return we can get for Brandon Ayuk? And then you decide if you want to trade him or not.
Yeah, they're spending a lot of money on Rodgers, though. I don't know if they could afford it. He may be a better fit for a team like Houston or any team with a quarterback on a rookie deal. But yeah, any team that's smart would want Brandon Ayuk because you see, all you have to do is give him the targets that CeeDee Lamb gets. Give him the targets that Justin Jefferson gets. Give him 150 targets, 170 targets a year. See what happens. His numbers are going to go through the roof. It's going to be a good investment. You're actually buying low on Brandon Ayuk. He's young. He's durable. He's tough. He blocks. He's underutilized. Trade for Brandon Ayuk. And it's a bad time to trade Brandon because you're trading low. You artificially suppressed his value by not giving him the freaking ball in the Super Bowl.
It's crazy to think how much
Deebo
more
instead. That was smart.
It's crazy to think how much more could be there. He had 75 catches for over 1,300 yards this year. And we all kind of agree he would have done way more with more targets, it's crazy, man.
But I think Ike's the kind of guy who could lead the league in receiving yards once or twice. He could do it. He just needs the opportunities.
Nick Ellert, YouTube channel member. Shout out to you, Nick, and all our YouTube channel members. If you want to become one, it's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, you get priority comment response. If you want a follow on X, I will give you one if you want it. If you don't, I'll leave you the hell alone. But I would appreciate the support either way. Nick says, wouldn't an upgrade at right tackle put Kittle out for more passes? I think they needed an upgrade at center also. I have to say, I am all set with seeing George Kittle pass blocking for the rest of his career. He doesn't do it a ton. I don't ever want to see it again for any reason, Grant.
Yeah, he's making $22 million this year. It's not to help out the right tackle who's trying to save money on. And it's fine. You don't want to spend market rate on a right tackle. It's expensive. Okay, well, go get a guy in round 1. Please. And I know the Niners, their philosophy, going back to the Niners, to the 90s, the Shanahan philosophy is you'd rather have you don't need a premium athlete at right tackle. You need someone tough, someone who was redshirted in college, a 5-year player, someone who's just kind of a dog. Yeah, but now if you really, to this person's point, if you want to free up George Kittle, you need an athlete at right tackle, a guy who can. Operate in space in pass protection. Need it.
And like, yeah, you don't have to have an all pro at every spot, but you could draft one and like he could become one and outplay his draft stat. Like nobody would
What if
turn
they
it
had
down.
traded Buckner and drafted Wirfs instead? Then that trade would have been good. This would have been an actual good trade.
But that's I want to say something about that before I get to some more of the super chats too, because I think people are like, you can't trade Ayuk and draft a wide receiver. Look what happened with Buckner and Kinlaw. Like that doesn't mean that it would never work out if you trade a guy and draft his replacement. Like just because it didn't work out with Buckner doesn't mean you should never try it again. It means they screwed that one up. They got it wrong. But if Kinlaw ended up being a good player, it would have been a smart move by the 49ers. It depends on what you do with the return that you get for that player.
And that's why, like, if the Niners were to trade Ayuk, it'd be important for them not to say, we have to spend this pick on a wide receiver. Like, no, you don't. You have to spend this pick on the best player available. If you don't know what position is going to be, it may not even be an offensive lineman. Like when they got rid of Trent Brown and they needed a right tackle. They passed on Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick because they had to take McGlinchey. Like, don't put yourself in that position. Take the best player available if you trade Brandon Ayuk. Otherwise, you're going to lose the trade because Brandon Ayuk is going to get better. He's going to put the bar real high to win the trade. So make sure you get a great player, not just someone who fills a need.
Corey Soto says, regardless if they trade Brandon Ayuk or not, this team is going to regress. Purdy, etc., and the window will be closed. Next year, we'll be talking rebuild. I don't think so. I don't think I agree with that. Not all of it. Purdy might regress, maybe, but they do still have a pretty young core. Warner's still pretty young. Bosa's still pretty young. Hufanga's pretty young. Jair Brown obviously has a little ways to go, but he's still a very young player. Christian McCaffrey is what, 28?
I was going to say there are two players that are kind of right on the cusp, but you wonder how long are they going to be playing at an elite level? And one guy may not even be playing at an elite level anymore. Bosa and McCaffrey. Those two are so important to what the Niners do. And McCaffrey is at the top of his game now, has been for the last couple years. How much longer? And with Bosa, like, was this year an aberration or is he slowly turning into Joey? I need to know.
I mean, I thought Bosa had an awesome Super Bowl. I thought he was
for
fantastic
sure.
in the
He was
Super
good.
Bowl.
He was good.
McCaffrey
Let's see him do it for a full season now. Like, dude, you're not that old. Or are you?
McCaffrey turns 28 this summer. Bosa is 26. He'll be 27 in October. Oh, actually, Nick Bosa has the same birthday as my wife and my son.
Hey, how about
forgot about that. But they have a lot. Your quarterback is 24, by the way. So, like, you know, some of their players are getting older. Yes, Kittle's older. I would definitely worry about Debo as he starts to get older, although he's not 30 years old yet. But some of their players are getting older. Armstead is older. But I still think they have enough good young players to where we're not going to be talking about rebuild in a year. Corey, God, I hope we're not talking.
I think Purdy's too good too for them to just fall apart. Like he's not Jimmy. Maybe I'm wrong. I really do think Purdy's a good quarterback. I was all over as being a fraud immediately. I don't see that with Brock. I really don't. Even though I do think the interception is going to be an issue for him. Sorry.
Gold Tao says, is Kyle's daddy sabotaging Kyle to never match him? Man, it is weird. Some 49er fans go into the psychological aspects of the Shanahan's, man. I'm not qualified to make that statement, but Kyle's a big boy. You know, he shouldn't let himself be sabotaged. He's got to be the one to make the decisions.
You'd love to know what Mike privately thinks of his son right now. Like, I was better.
Well,
I was better. Yeah.
That's a hard legacy to live up to. Although I will say, like, you know, Mike didn't get his Super Bowls until very late in his coaching life. So Kyle is still young, 44.
No, hold on. Mike Shanahan was born in 52. He won in 98. He was
45. Oh, okay, never mind. So next year, Kyle will be 45 next year.
And he'd already won one as a coordinator. So yeah, Kyle, you're running out of time, man. This is time.
He's not really running out of time.
You're running out of time. Otherwise, your dad's going to have this little smirk on his face at every Thanksgiving. You know what that smirk's going to be about.
Oh, man. Look, Mike is still very involved in everything happening with the 49ers. He still gets he's still very involved. At one point, he had an office at the 49ers facility. So, you know, don't think that he is separate from that. I still argue that he has the most influence over Kyle than anybody else that works for the 49ers.
I disagree. It's us. Quality control. I want an office. And a salary. Please.
Right. The salary more so than the office. I'm willing to work remote. The salary is really what I need.
Good point.
The other area where I think the 49ers need to improve, I think they need help in the secondary. And they're by far not the only team that can say that. Like, everybody needs to get deeper in the secondary. It's hard to find good players in the secondary. I don't think they're in a horrible spot, but you've got Hufanga coming off an ACL. Gibson is older. Plus, honestly, like, he's had his good and bad moments. I don't know how much more juice you can expect to squeeze out of him. At corner, I think they got very, very lucky that Charvarius Ward stayed healthy all season long. I think they would have been in a real bind if he had gotten hurt. So I would love to see them get some more depth in the secondary.
They definitely need a third corner. No offense to Ambry Thomas, but no. Isaiah Oliver, no.
He'll be gone.
Maybe Darrell Luter Jr. I mean, he'll get his chance next year. We'll see what he's got, but they need to draft a guy, which is, they could draft a guy on day 3 or day 2. But I think a spot on defense, they really need to upgrade. There's a couple spots. Linebacker. They never really replaced Azeez Al-Shaair to begin with. And then when Dre Greenlaw went down, Oren Burks got just torched. I don't think you want him starting for your defense. You need a good linebacker 2, linebacker 3. They don't have that right now. They have the 2 guys who were drafted last year. See what they got, but they need to bring in reinforcements at linebacker. And then the bookend for Bosa, it can't be Chase Young. Sorry, that didn't work. They really missed searching for that. They need someone else at that spot.
Charles Omenihu, like he was a good player for the Chiefs. He got hurt. They're still searching for that. And I want to say this too, because I've heard this narrative pop up. Well, if they had those 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance, that they'd be a lot better. They'd be a lot deeper. And yes, that's true, but that isn't the reason why they have these question marks on the roster. The reason they have these question marks on the roster is because the guys that they have picked haven't worked out. They have not gotten a lot of value out of their draft classes recently.
Especially,
I'll throw it up on the screen.
Yeah. Last 2, man.
Right. Like, you got Jair Brown, you got value out of him, you got value out of Jake Moody. And then the rest of the draft class this year,
Jake Moody might not even be on the team next year, though. I mean, we'll see about that.
They got nothing. 0. Darrell Luter, Robert Beal, D. Winters, Braden Willis, Ronnie Bell, Jalen Graham. Nothing. Not like if a couple of those guys are just league average players, the 49ers are in such a better spot. Let's look at 2022. Drake Jackson. They traded for Cam for Chase Young because Drake Jackson stinks. Ty Davis Price, congratulations. He's the Eagles' 4th running back now. Danny Gray, nothing. Spencer Burford, they've been starting. Okay, you could say they got value.
Best player so far.
Right.
Yeah.
Samuel Womack, Nick Zakel, Kalia Davis, Tariq Castro Fields. Nothing. Okay. Now Purdy, obviously, yes. But
so they got 2 players in the last 2 drafts.
Right. Now let's go to 2021. Trey Lance. Right. We know how that went. Aaron Banks has been a starter. Okay. Trey Sermon stunk. Ambry Thomas has been up and down at best. Jalen Moore stinks. Lenore, very good value out of Lenore, especially for a 5th-round pick, and Hufanga and Mitchell. The end of that draft class is excellent.
Good draft. Actually, it wasn't a bad draft, but compared to the last 2 drafts, it was a bonanza.
2020, Javon Kinlaw, 1 good year. Brandon Ayuk, excellent
pick.
Colton McKivitz, Charlie Warner's backup tight end.
You got a starting tackle in round 5. That's a good pick. Shout out Colton McKivitz. Big fan.
Just because you start a guy doesn't mean he's actually like starter level. It just means that you don't have anybody. But you know what I mean? Like,
it's a good 5th-round pick. Is all I'm saying.
It's not a bad 5th-round pick. That's fair.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings, excellent value in the 7th round. Excellent.
Hell yeah.
And then 2019 was, oh man, Bosa 1, Debo 2, Dre Greenlaw in the 5th. Like, holy hell.
You just casually scroll past Wisnowski? Oh my God. Come on.
But I think the point overall is they have not gotten the value out of the guys that they have picked. And that's why they're in the spot. It's not because they didn't have 3 first-round picks because of the Trey Lance deal. That hurt for sure. But they could have been in a much better spot. But they have gotten, it's like either their picks are home runs or strikeouts. Like they never just hit a single with a draft pick.
Look at their 2nd and 3rd round picks the last few years. I mean, they've missed way too many, like not just guys who aren't that good, but guys who like aren't in the league.
Right.
You can't miss like that in round 2 and 3. Drake Jackson, Danny Gray, Ty Davis Price, Trey Sermon, just flat out whiffs. Cam Latu, my goodness.
Look at the names.
Can't miss like that in round 3, round 2. Jalen Hurd.
That is rough. And again, it's like no contribution. It's not just like, hey, this guy's not as good as we thought. It's nothing. Like, can't even be active some of the time. Like, that's what really, really hurts you.
And what's weird about it too is like this team is too good at drafting to be this bad in one particular round. Like, is there something different about your process in this one round? Is someone who's not particularly like, hasn't really done their homework, just picking players at random? What's going on? Don't know.
And it'll be interesting. Adam Peters is not here anymore. Does that change some of the 49ers philosophy? I'm not saying Adam Peters was responsible for those third round picks because I don't know. But I mean, am I going to sit here clutching my pearls now that Adam Peters is gone? No.
My guess though is that Kyle's responsible for those picks. Those are Kyle picks. Jalen Hurd.
Well, Jalen Hurd at least was injury related.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think that's the guy who picks those. Like probably Lynch takes the first couple round or the first round for sure. That's Lynch, and then maybe Kyle gets to take day 2. I don't know.
I think the thing with Kyle is, if Kyle wants a guy, he gets him. I don't think it's all like Kyle scouting, but I think
he's not gonna wait till day 3 for that.
Joe Williams, a perfect example. Kyle was pounding the table for Joe Williams. He gave them absolutely nothing.
He freaked out that he wasn't going to get him. He had to sleep on it.
CJ Beathard. Kyle loved CJ Beathard in the third round.
Wasn't willing to sleep on that one. God forbid.
That's the difference. So some of those absolutely lay at the feet of Kyle Shanahan. Not all of them, I don't think, but they've got to get better.
I feel like such a head coach pick. I need a kicker. Let's get the best kicker. Okay, but you don't really know much about this guy. Yeah, but you said he's good, right? Let's get him.
So the kicker thing, like, it didn't hurt him at all. It didn't hurt them at all. They were the number 1 seed. They got to the Super Bowl. He made 2 huge 50-plus yard kicks in the Super Bowl. Like, Jake Moody was not the 49ers' problem.
He missed a kick in every playoff game. I don't want that headache.
And they still got to the Super Bowl.
Not because of him.
But like, you were like, Robbie Gould's never missed.
He produces anxiety. I wouldn't want that anxiety. I just don't want to think about my kicker ever. And you have to think about Moody. Oh my God, can you trust him to make an extra point? Is there too much pressure? Will they ice him? Oh my God.
He missed like 2 extra points the whole year. 2.
Yeah, but he really, really missed what? 5 kicks in the last 4 games? Something like that? Yeah.
He did not end the season as good as he started. No. That's for sure. But also rookie years for a lot of
use the word didn't finish it well.
Was that wrong?
Missing that extra point really, really let the Chiefs push it into overtime. Could have been a 4-point lead. It was a 3-point lead.
Like, that extra point is so overblown in terms of reasons why the 49ers lost the game. It's absurd. It is crazy how people think like that one extra point. Like, you think the 49ers would have won if he made that extra point? That's not why they lost.
They could have used that point.
Well, obviously,
pretty
more
much
points is better than less points, but yeah. But again, overall, I think he was fine. I think
they might have won in regulation if he had that point.
If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, man. Who the hell knows? Nobody can.
I had
say
a Merry
for
Christmas.
Sure.
I had a Merry Christmas.
I think it's very possible that he's much better next year. A lot of times kickers, quote unquote, struggle in their rookie year and then end up being much better players. So I would not even consider cutting Jake Moody next year. It wouldn't even enter my.
Consider it?
No.
Wow.
Why am I'm good with kicker. I've invested in the process. He was fine. We can move on. I have way bigger problems than kicker.
I don't trust him. Hey, if he's on the team next year, I'm blaming you. No. If he misses a kick, it's your fault.
Well, you could sign me up for that blame because he's going to miss at least one. Jeffrey Ray says, would Brock have the same interceptions in Baltimore if we had a solid offensive line and a right tackle? Brock did not have an interception problem. He didn't. Where is this narrative coming from? I blame you for that.
He threw 4 picks against Baltimore. That's what he's talking about.
Right. But overall,
so he's saying, like, would that have been less of an issue if he had a better offensive line? I don't know. Let's find out. It seems like he's really, really, really good from a clean pocket.
He had 11 picks on the year, and 4 of them came in one game against the Ravens. Did he have some drop picks? Sure. Did every other quarterback in the entire National Football League? Absolutely. I think we pay a lot more attention to it with Brock Purdy than we do other quarterbacks because there's a lot of people that are convinced that Brock Purdy is not any good. So they have to point to the dropped interceptions as a reason why. They ignore the actual good
Once
stuff.
again, Rob, no one thinks Brock isn't any good. No one thinks that. Everyone acknowledges he's good. We do this every week, man. I'm not letting you get away with it anymore. I'm Batman, and you're the Joker, and I won't let it stand in Gotham City. No, everyone thinks Brock Purdy's really good.
I don't think
That's an outdated argument.
I don't think that everyone thinks. You don't think there's nobody.
If there's one person who doesn't think Brock Purdy's really good, you're going to be on a crusade to change that person's opinion. I respect it. But you got me. I think he's really good.
I think there's a lot of people that think Brock Purdy's just mid. I think there's a lot of people that think that. I think there's still a lot of people that think he's not good.
Let's go door to door and be like, I heard you think Brock Purdy's mid. I heard you think it. No. Well, tell me why. I want to know. Do you remember that? Was that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they go door to door and they beat up every person that gave their movie a bad review? Let's do that. But
I don't know
for Brock Purdy's. Sorry, that movie wasn't even that good.
Niners for life. Just realized 2 former Niner players, Gabbert and McKinnon, have more Super Bowl rings than Kyle and Lynch's Niner team. I mean, okay, wow, a backup quarterback got a Super Bowl ring. Like, how is that some sort of indictment of Kyle Shanahan? That
got under Rob's skin, though. You could tell he didn't like it. He was like, okay.
I just think it's a weird take. I mean, well, at least McKinnon played in the game. But, like, wow, Blaine Gabbert.
Also, Richie James.
Yeah, I saw that.
Has a ring, too.
I mean, David Carr has a Super Bowl ring.
Travarius Ward could have 3 rings right now, but he left.
Steve Young has 3, but no one ever talks about it because
he has 2.
He was a backup quarterback.
Jimmy G has 2.
What do you think you cherish more? Do you think well, I shouldn't say that because I guess the answer is obvious, but like you've got the Niners are going to get rings this year. They're going to get NFC Championship rings or a ring you won as a backup player that didn't play in the Super Bowl.
Neither.
Right? Like Fred was asked about the NFC.
Yeah. He was asked,
Fred
like, I don't
know
where it is.
He was like, yeah, that's cute. I don't even know where the ring is. Like it's probably in, a closet somewhere. I don't know. That's that bad. Comment did get under my skin.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. That's all I got for this week. Combine is next week. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm super excited I could read mock drafts again because the Niners actually have a first-round pick. I love mock drafts. I don't expect them to be accurate. I honestly don't even care if they're accurate. I read them to just think about the possibilities. I always say mock drafts are candy, right? I eat it because it tastes good. That's
part of the reason I want the Niners to trade Ayuk is because it'll give them like a higher pick and it'll make me more into mock drafts.
Look, the Niners move up in the first round. If they have a guy they want, the Niners are not afraid to move up and make a deal. They are not afraid to.
What is Debo worth in a trade, pick-wise?
Talk about selling low on the guy.
No one wants that contract. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can get a second for Debo. Maybe
a second.
Depending on where you send. It's a tight end, and he's older, and he's expensive. Maybe a 2.
Third?
Probably a third and more, I would say.
What about Ayuk? Can you get top 15 for Ayuk?
I think 15 is probably the sweet
highest
spot, I would say. Yeah,
maybe
I don't think
20.
you're going to get
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting a top 10 pick for Brandon Ayuk at this point.
What about Brock Purdy? If you want to get crazy, you want to get stupid. What are we getting for Brock Purdy?
Question.
What are you getting for Brock? Top 10?
Probably not that much, right? So you're sitting here saying everybody thinks Brock Purdy is good, but you're not. If that was the case, you'd get a first-round pick for him, right? You're not getting a first-round
top 10 pick for him, man. I mean, would you rather have Brock Purdy or Drake May?
Oh, I think teams would say Drake May.
JJ McCarthy.
I think they would say, I would rather spend that pick on that player, and because their floor could be Brock Purdy, but their ceiling might be way higher. I think that's what they would say.
Maybe. I'd much rather have Brock Purdy than JJ McCarthy, and I'm a hater.
Jeffrey Ray says, Brock is great, Rob. 49ers didn't draft an offensive lineman in 23. I know.
Yeah. What? Sure.
We agree, but thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate that. Yeah, that's an interesting question. What would Brock Purdy get? Would you trade a top 10 pick? I don't think most teams would. I think teams would say, I'd rather roll the dice on a guy that we think has a higher ceiling.
Possible. It's interesting. I wonder if someone could get to the bottom of that. It'd be interesting article. What is actually Brock Purdy worth?
Somebody
What's he going to get paid in the open market? A lot.
Give me some Brock Purdy trade rumors next week at the Combine.
Yeah.
Think of the content creators, people. Come on, we need
Hey, wasn't it last year at the Combine when the rumors came out that the Niners might be sort of kind of interested in Kirk Cousins if things don't work out so great with Brock? Because he hadn't had a surgery yet. So maybe there'll be some weird, freaky rumors coming out in a week. I hope so. Here's to weird and freaky.
They're all there. They're all at the Combine. They're all talking about everything. That's what goes on. And that's what you have to do. You have to see what's out there. Hell, the 49ers ended up trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. They didn't know. Kyle Shanahan took a call from Bill Belichick. You have to have the conversations.
Also, the Niners almost pivoted to Tom Brady last year. So you never really know what Kyle Shanahan's thinking, especially after he loses the Super Bowl.
This team is never boring. Don't forget that. They're never going to be boring. Garrett Starr says, what happened to Danny Gray? I don't know. Is Danny Gray still alive?
Yeah, he wasn't good. That's what happened.
Right. This just in. Danny Gray.
He wasn't good. I'm sorry.
Not him.
Nope.
The wide receiver search continues. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your pods. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the Grant Cohn YouTube channel. We'll be here every Wednesday for you. Grant, what do you have coming up?
Well, I got a stream with Jesse tonight, Niners After Dark, which gets freaking weird. Then I got a show with the coach tomorrow morning, and I'm going to be trying to do a couple bonus shows, maybe this afternoon, maybe tomorrow, just because. So that's what I'm up to.
Yep, I'm trying to do some bonus shows. I'll be live with Levin Black later tonight because we're not going to be able to go live on Thursday, so we'll do that later tonight. Hopefully by then, according to Tim Kawakami, we could have a new defensive coordinator. So we will see.
Maybe.
Could.
Potentially.
Maybe. Could come now, could come later. Those are the two options Kawakami is reporting. Enjoy it, everybody. We'll talk to you.
Enjoy.